Good morning. Good to see you. Thank you so much for worshiping with us here today. And if you're worshiping with us in our Commons or at Millard, we're glad you're here. And you may not know this, but we're a church with multiple locations. We have a service going on right now in our Commons. If you think, well, there's too many people in here, I'd like the Commons a little bit smaller, live worship, video venue. If you live in the Millard area, we'd love for you to be a part of that as well. It's a great location, right next to the pizza machine. And it is live worship, video venue as well down there. And we're going to turn this into a video venue as well sometimes, so you just never know. But we're really glad you're here today. We're starting a brand new message series called Up. And we're kind of taking some words like, we'll fill in the blank up, right? Like, so wake up, shut. No, be careful, right? Be careful so today we're going to talk about train up. And as parents, it's difficult, right? It's a hard job. It's getting more and more complicated. Now, some of you are thinking, sweet, I'm not a parent. I am not having children. I don't, it's like, you're a grandparent. I've already done that. And so you're thinking, I'm going to check out. I'm checking out for a while. I got 4 or 5 weeks here. I'm coasting. I might not even come to church. I'll podcast somebody else, whatever. Do not do that. Do not check out during this time. Grandparents, I don't know if you noticed this, but sometimes they show back up. Like, well, I thought you were gone. A lot of you are doing incredible work now, raising your grandkids, having to go through those things, and sometimes it's hard, massively difficult right now. And wears you out, really, really does. Some of you are thinking, oh, we're newly married, we're not having children, and then surprise, we got a little blessing, and you don't know what to do with this little blessing, right? It's like they don't give you instructions, they don't really help you out, and really today, where do we find out our information? Siri. That's it. It's like, this is all we know. We Google it, or like, hey Siri, I'm heading to Walmart. I got 3 kids. What do I do? Siri's like, I have nothing for you, man. Good luck. It's like, good luck. You're not going to make it. So where do we find information, or how do we, what's going to help us be good parents? And truly, truly, when my kids were born, and again, I was an expert. I was an expert at parenting before I had children. I really was good at it. And I told parents all the time how to parent, right? And as a youth pastor, you do, hey, yeah, you just do this. And once you have children, you can't. You're not an expert. And when my kids were born, we knew nothing of war. We knew nothing of war. 15 years ago, all that stuff changed, right? 15 years ago. Can't believe it's been that long. But there's many kids in this room today that don't know. They don't know anything but that. If you're under 20, you don't remember a time when our country was not at war. Many of you know people who've been at war, been in Afghanistan. You've been, we cannot and still are not away from that. My kids didn't grow up with that until 15 years ago when that happened. Gay marriage and transgender issues were way off on the, they were not even close to that. Pot now is legalized in multiple states. Pornography is available to every child with a smartphone at any time. Debt is a massive reality for most kids as they get out of high or college. So it's no wonder that parents today are trying to figure out what to do. Most parents that I talk to are completely confused. Seems like we have no idea what we're supposed to do. So during the next few weeks, we're going to turn our attention to the Bible and take a look at how do we do this, right? So Proverbs 22, verse 6. Direct your children, not other people's, yours, right? This is a good one, right? Direct your children. And you're tempted to direct other people's children, but you're supposed to direct your children. So direct your children onto the right path. And when they are older, they will not leave it. Also would say, other translations say, train up your child. Now, oftentimes this verse is used to kind of give comfort to parents whose kids wander. And by the way, most of our kids kind of go through that period of time when it's like, hey, we stick them in Sunday school, go to vacation Bible school, we do the Wednesday night program, and we know that eventually, though, they're probably going to go, right? They're going to reject it. They get into middle school, high school, they get around some other friends and some stuff, and dad doesn't want to go to church anymore. Mom's like, hey, it's kind of like, oh, you don't have to. We'll choose this over this, over this, over this, right? And all of a sudden, other things take priority. But we're okay because we stuck them in Sunday school for a while. And yes, they're probably going to wander around from the faith. They're going to get, right? It's like, hey, soccer gets more important or volleyball gets more important. And all of a sudden things take place. And we're not going to CIY anymore. We're going to this and we're going to that. And all of a sudden, but we know we're okay because we stuck them in Sunday school for a while. And that way they will wander, but they will come back. Right? Yep, they're off doing their own thing now. They got into college. Hope they don't get. And okay, cool. And probably when they have children, they're going to go, we should go to church. Yeah, we should probably grow up. Now, that's a nice verse, but it's not a promise. It's a proverb. It's not a reality for a lot of people who watch their kids kind of throw up back in their parents' face, the faith and the truth that they were taught as children, wander from it and may never even come back to it. We oftentimes think that this is what that means. It's not what that means. But we are to train up our children. Sometimes we think that this just mostly deals with, hey, find out what they're good at and train them in that, and then they'll always like it, right? So like if the kids like sports, you should help them with that. If they like art, you should help them with that. If they like Pokemon Go, you should help them with that, right? It's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's exactly right. But here we're going to talk about train up. Training is important, right? Olympic Games were just over. We watched people train for years for seconds of work, right? Years and years and years of practice and training and all of that effort for, seconds of glory, and sometimes not even that. We have spring training and basic training and training camps and potty training. So what are we going to want to teach our children? For people of faith, the question is answered for us in the Bible. Deuteronomy chapter 6. These are the commands. What are those? What is he talking about? Well, that's the 10 Commandments. We'll talk about that in a second. These are the commands, the decrees, and regulations that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land that you are about to enter and occupy. So they're about ready to go into the promised land. Right? It's like, hey, we finally got out of Egypt. We're going to the promised land. So here's how we're going to behave. Here's how we're going to act when we get there. And you and your children and grandchildren must fear the Lord your God as long as you live. Here we go, if, not when, if, you might, not, if you don't, right? If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy, here's what the fruit of that is, you will enjoy long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you. And you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel. The Lord is your God, the Lord alone. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. You must commit yourselves wholeheartedly. This is not like kind of a hobby thing. This is not like playing at it. It's not just pretending. We're going to commit ourselves wholeheartedly. And there's ramifications for that, right? There's a difference. If one just plays at this thing, it's just a hobby for people. It's no big deal. Take it or leave it. You must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I'm giving you today. Here's what we're supposed to do. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you are at home and when you're on the road, when you're going to bed, and when you're getting up. This is training. This is basic training, right? This is what we're going to do. We're going to talk to them constantly about the commandments. So much so that we'll tie them on our hands, wear them on our foreheads as reminders, write them on the doorposts of our house and on your gates. We are going to be serious about this. Press upon your children. There's no way of getting around this. Now, what are the 10 Commandments? You're like, I don't even know where they are. In fact, if I was to ask you today, some of you is like, where's the 10 Commandments? You're like, Bible? Right. Very good, right, okay. I know. Exodus chapter 20, there's 10 here. Let me just read them quickly. And God spoke all these words, I am the Lord your God, brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other God before me. You shall not make yourself an idol. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Honor your father and mother. You should not commit murder, not commit adultery. Don't steal. Don't give false testimony. Don't covet your neighbor's stuff. Here's the 10, right? And so if you need to pull that out, Exodus chapter 20 gives you a clue on what this is. Now, Jesus kind of boiled it down a little easier for us in Matthew chapter 22. Jesus said, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. So there's a hierarchy on the commandment levels, right? So here's what the first thing is. Love God, right? Everything we got. Then he goes on and says, well, then love your neighbor as yourself. And he boils that down to just two things. And it sounds simple enough, but it's really difficult. Obedience to God's law is the starting point. I hope that, and again, my purpose today is to help you fall in love with the law. Now, that may sound odd. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Here's what I want. Psalm 119. Oh, how I love your instructions or your law. I think about them all day long. Is that true? Your commands make me wiser than my enemies, for they are my constant guide. Yes, I have more insight than my teachers. I'm always thinking of your laws. I'm even wiser than my elders. I've kept your commandments. I've refused to walk on any evil path so that I may remain obedient to your word. I haven't turned away from your regulations, for you have taught me well. How sweet your words taste to me. They are sweeter than honey. Your commandments give me understanding. No wonder I hate every false way of life. I hope that you'll get to that point where you say, I love the law because this is what it does for me, right? Typically when we think of the law, we go, oh, that must be there for a reason. He don't want me to have fun, right? It's like, you have laws in your home. Don't touch that, don't do that, don't run. And kids like, hey, don't touch the stove. It must be fun then. Oh, no, see, there's not, but typically with laws, we think, oh, there's a reason why he says that, right? Because it's fun. And like, don't eat that from that tree. Oh, it must taste good. That's typically how we view laws. We push back. Today in our high schools, 80% of our students do not believe that there's an absolute truth, meaning there's no right and wrong. 80% don't think there's a right or wrong. In fact, this is how they'll tell you, well, that might be wrong for you, but it's not wrong for me. What? Well, you might think it's wrong, but I don't. I don't have a problem with that. You might have a problem with that, and they'll say it straight to your face, as if you are like, what? Whoa, wait, I didn't make this up. I know, but that's then, this is now. It was wrong then, but it's not wrong now. Whoa, whoa, whoa. See, that's just, there's no absolute, so when somebody says there's no absolute truth, I say, are you absolutely sure? That sounds like an absolute truth that you just stated. What? No. Let's just deal with a couple of commandments, because we can't deal with all 10 today. But here's let's talk about adultery. The average high school student thinks adultery, that's just stupid, that law is stupid, that commandment doesn't make any sense. College students unsupervised on a campus or in a frat house or sorority or on spring break, chuck this one out pretty quickly. Because if there's no right or wrong, then we just here's how we do life. And we started this. If it feels good, do it. Well, this feels good. Okay, then do it. There is no right or wrong. There's no right. It's like, hey, it's okay. Everybody is doing it. And so 80% of us think there's no right or wrong. There is a massive reason why this commandment is important. It's not because God doesn't want us to have fun. By the way, he does want us to have fun. He does want us, right? Because he invented sex. He said, this is going to blow your mind. And, right, whoa, okay. But as the designer and the creator of this says, here's how, boy, this will be incredible for human beings. But it can also be massively destructive as well. Probably no commandment has affected my personal relationships more than this one in the last year or so. People who've blown past this and said, there's no reason why I can't, there's no reason why I can't, no reason why I can't. And there's a reason why this is in the top 10 list. I don't care if you're a Christian or not. There will be massive struggle and massive guilt over this one that affects relationships it affects relationships years after years after it has been done. You might not even been a Christian. You didn't even know anything about this. You didn't know this. You just like, hey, if this feels good, she feels good, he feels good. This is awesome. I want to do it. And yet years and years and years later, you're dealing with the ramifications of those decisions. Even when I'm going to put up a warning sign for you today, like thou shalt not. That's a warning sign, and there's a reason why we have this warning sign. I read about a couple who went on a honeymoon in Alaska. They had rented ATVs, and they were having an amazing time. They blew past some warning signs on the Cook Inlet. And the Cook Inlet, south of Anchorage, is a beautiful place. I've been there. And I've oftentimes, when I was there, I wondered, why isn't anybody out there? And when the tide goes out, nobody's out on what it looks like a very beautiful beach. Well, it's not sand, it's glacial silt. And there's a reason why you don't go out there. If you go out there, you will sink into it, and you can't get out of it. And so there's warning signs all over the Cook Inlet. Do not go out there. Well, they blew past the warning signs, and her ATV gets stuck out there. She jumps off and sinks up to her knees. Her husband thought it was funny, yelling at her, hey, come on, come on. And he starts to drive his ATV out there, and everybody stops him that was on the shore watching what was going on. So they call for the rescue, and the rescue people come out, and they can't get her out. By this time, she's up to her hips in glacial silt. They call in a helicopter to try to pull her out, and the helicopter cannot do it. And eventually the tide comes in, and she loses her life. We think, well, see, it's just a warning sign. It can't be that big a deal. Just blow past it. We'll be okay. Another one we think is no big deal in the commandments is thou shalt not steal. Statistics tell us that 56% of high school students are going to shoplift. 56, I think that's low. And here's why. I heard on statistics now that a lot of people are stealing when they go through the checkout because you can do self-checkout. And you don't mean to the first time, it just kind of happened. And then you're like, oh, and people who just kind of, and now what they're finding is we got to put people there and we got to put cameras there because nobody's going to steal if somebody's watching them. But if there's nobody's watching, we pocket the deal. And again, parents, I think this is something that we teach our children. We teach them about fidelity and relationships and sex before marriage, all that stuff. We're going to model that. And you're like, well, how am I supposed to model it? When I blew it before that, it's like, oh, well, tell you what, here we go. You can start over. God gives us forgiveness and grace. And oftentimes we learn from our mistakes in our past, right? We can do this. You are to model this for your children. Stealing is like, well, that's no big deal, but you can model this all the time. I watch my wife navigate this all the time with our kids. When they were little and she was going through the checkout stuff and somebody would give her, my wife is a banker. She comes from a long line of people who count money. Her dad's a rare coin dealer. It's just in her blood. She knows how to do this, and she can do it quickly. And so if somebody just gives her more money than she always returned it. And we're like, what? Like, yep, and she always gave it back. She's still doing this, by the way. Recently, we sold my father-in-law's car, and the people who bought it, we insisted that they would pay cash, and they did. But they happened to be from Kearney and, all this stuff, and so money was exchanged in kind of funny ways, and we ended up getting it. Anyway, when we got home, Linda counted it again and discovered that they had given us $100 more than what they were supposed to. And so we took it to the bank and deposited it, and sure enough, the ATM even confirmed it. They gave you more money. And she said, well, I think we need to send that back. Really? Isn't it a tip? For kind of wear and tear and stuff, and us putting it on Craigslist and dealing with people. And so she sent it back. once again teaching me, thou shalt not steal. It would have been very easy to just say, and they would have never known. They would have not messed it. I don't think, you know who would have known? Me and God. See, I never have to worry about trusting my wife with my money. People like, how much money do you make? I said, just ask Linda. Ask her, she knows. I don't have to worry about that. That's a huge deal. I'm pretty sure we might say all of this like we would shrug all these commandments off with no big deal. Parents, please talk with your children about that. I know it's unconstitutional for us to talk about it in school, but it is not unconstitutional for us to talk about it at church and at home, at least now. Otherwise, our children will decide for themselves what is right and wrong. They will decide. And it will sound like this. Hey, thanks, but, no thanks. I know that's your value system, not my value system. Yeah, but I'm going to let them decide for themselves. They will decide for themselves. They truly will. In the movie Forrest Gump, at the end of that great movie, Forrest's wife, Jenny, who had made a lot of bad mistakes, dies. She's 35 years old. And Forrest stands at the end of at her grave and said these words: "You died on a Saturday morning, and I had you placed here under a tree." He talks a little bit more about life and about how their little son Forrest was doing and how much he missed her. Then he begins to reflect on life, and he wonders whether his mama or Lieutenant Dan had it right. Do we have a destiny, or are we floating around kind of accidental, like a feather on a breeze? And we watch this feather float off into the distance. As if the director of the movie and the writer of that script was letting us know, you're just a feather. No real direction, just whatever direction the breeze takes you, you just go. And you can choose to live all accidental-like, or you can decide, you can decide, I'm not going to train up my child in the way they should go. They're going to have to float around and figure out life on their own. I'll float around in life with no direction, no truth. Or you can put yourself in the hands of the loving God and watch Him fill up your life with direction and wisdom and purpose. Now let me just say this, and I'll probably say this multiple times throughout this message series. You can do all this, and your kids will still go their own way at times, and it'll break your heart. There are no perfect parents in this room. There's no perfect children in this room. The only perfect parent that I know of is the good father that we sang about already today. God's the perfect parent, and His children mess up all the time. He pushes all the right buttons and does all the right things, says all the right words, and gives me the appropriate amount of love and appropriate amount of discipline. He never abuses me, never hurts me, never just throws me away. He never abandons me, and yet I still will do dumb things. And your kids will do dumb stuff too. And at these moments where you feel like, I've encouraged you to hang on to the promised keeper Himself. Find strength and courage from God and Him alone at this point. I would encourage you to find your way to a small group of people that you can pray with and hold on to and hold hands with and navigate through these most difficult times. It will be very difficult at times to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself, and to train up your child in the way they should go. But you can do this. You can do this, parents. All right? Let's pray. Thank you so much today in this room. God, there are so many people here with they're great parents. They're really trying their best to live out the commandment stuff and super faithful and massively concerned about their children involved in their lives. For some of us, though, we're trying to figure it out. We have no clue. We don't know what's going on in our head, and we don't even know how to do. We didn't grow up in a good home. We struggled with rules our whole life. We just struggled with anybody telling us what to do. And we push back. We push back all the time about laws and rules and commandments. But we're sensing a real need for that in our heart and our life today. We've been floating around for far too long. We've lived our life by the rule of, if it feels good, do it. And if everybody else is, it must be for me. And we've found our life and our marriage and things crashing down around us. We don't even know what to do. So perhaps today would be the first day in a long time that we would inch our way closer to you. God, I'm sure there's some folks here today needing to ask you for forgiveness, hoping beyond hope that you would fulfill the promise that you said you would, that if we would confess our sins, that we would be saved and that you would forgive us of all unrighteousness. So we trust that still to this day, grateful that you would be patient with us even now. In Christ we pray.